Can a single joke ruin someone's career or even put a comedian's life in danger? Back in 2018, Katt Williams sat down for what was supposed to be a lighthearted radio interview, but when host Wanda Smith tried to challenge him, things spiraled into one of the most brutal on-air roasts the internet had ever seen. Within hours, the clip went viral, Wanda's reputation took a hit, and Katt's words followed her for the rest of her career. But that was only the beginning, because what started as comedy quickly turned serious, sparking real-life confrontations, accusations of homophobia, career fallout, and even a moment where Katt's life may have been on the line. And years later, with cancel culture rewriting the rules of entertainment, the roast has come back to haunt everyone involved. This is a story of how one viral moment changed the lives of Katt Williams and Wanda Smith forever, and why Dave Chappelle says it proves comedy itself is under attack. It all began in September 2018 on Frank and Wanda in the Morning, a popular Atlanta radio show on V103. Wanda Smith, one of the co-hosts, was sitting across from Katt Williams, who had stopped by for what was supposed to be a promotional interview. From the start, Wanda tried to keep it playful, teasing Katt about his hair, his past legal issues, and his career ups and downs. But if there's one thing Katt Williams is known for, it's turning the tables. Instead of backing down, he leaned into the moment and made Wanda the punchline. What started as light banter quickly escalated. Katt's sharp comebacks had the studio cracking up while Wanda struggled to regain control. Within minutes, the power dynamic had flipped. The comedian had taken over the show, and that's when things got ugly. Because this wasn't just an exchange of jokes, it was the setup for one of the most infamous on-air roasts in comedy history. What followed was nothing short of a comedy demolition. Katt Williams zeroed in on Wanda Smith with a roast so relentless it instantly went viral. He mocked her cooking, saying her meals looked like prison food. He clowned her appearance, cracking jokes about her wigs and makeup. He even took shots at her parenting, twisting every word she tried to throw back at him. The harder Wanda tried to defend herself, the deeper she sank. At one point, Wanda brought up Katt's criminal record and struggles with addiction, thinking she'd landed the knockout blow. But Katt flipped it instantly, delivering punchlines so quick and brutal that even her co-host couldn't help laughing. The clip spread like wildfire across social media. Fans said Wanda had walked straight into a battle she couldn't win. Memes were made, reaction videos poured in, and the consensus was clear. Wanda Smith had been humiliated on her own show. The question wasn't whether it was funny, it was whether Katt had crossed the line, because what started as jokes now looked like a career-shattering moment. What do you think? Was Katt just defending himself, or did he go way too far? The roast might have ended in the studio, but the tension didn't stop there. Hours after the viral interview, things escalated outside the Atlanta Comedy Theater, where Wanda's husband confronted Katt Williams in the parking lot. According to reports, the argument turned heated fast. TMZ later released surveillance footage showing Wanda's husband chasing Katt with what appeared to be a gun. In the clip, Katt runs through the lot, clearly trying to get away. What started as a roast now looked like a situation where his life was genuinely at risk. Katt later claimed the whole thing was a setup, that Wanda's family wanted payback for the humiliation she faced on air. And whether you believed him or not, the footage spoke volumes. A comedy beef had spilled into something that looked like violence. It raised a bigger question: where's the line between jokes and real-world consequences? We've seen the Will Smith and Chris Rock slap dominate headlines, but this incident, barely anyone talked about it outside Atlanta. Why do some moments spark outrage worldwide while others fade into the background? For Wanda Smith, the viral roast was more than just a bad day at work. It marked the beginning of the end. In 2019, less than a year after the incident, she was let go from V103. Officially, the station framed it as a routine shakeup, but many fans connected the dots. Wanda's reputation had never recovered from that on-air clash with Katt Williams. The interview clip kept resurfacing online, each time reminding people of her humiliation. And then came another problem: her own words. During the roast, Wanda made a few comments that critics labeled homophobic. In a city like Atlanta, home to one of the largest black LGBTQ+ communities in the US, those remarks struck a nerve. So while Katt was painted as sharp, witty, and even heroic for holding his ground, Wanda was branded as out of touch. The fallout didn't just cost her a job, it cost her credibility in a city where image is everything. Imagine losing not just your job, but your entire reputation from a single viral moment. How would you bounce back from that? Years later, Katt Williams would show a different side of himself, one that left fans divided. In 2024, he issued a rare public apology, not to Wanda Smith, but to the family of Michael Jackson. In a surprising statement, Katt admitted that some of his old stand-up routines, where he joked about Jackson's scandals, were wrong. He claimed he had been manipulated into tearing down other black entertainers and that he regretted being part of that narrative. The apology caught fans off guard. If Katt could publicly make amends for mocking Michael Jackson, why not Wanda Smith? After all, her career arguably took a direct hit from his roast. On social media, some fans demanded he acknowledge the pain he caused Wanda. Others argued comedy is comedy, and no apology was ever necessary. But the inconsistency raised questions about who Katt chooses to apologize to and why. And in the court of public opinion, those choices matter, because apologies or the lack of them often shape a legacy just as much as the jokes themselves. As Katt's name kept popping back up in headlines, another comedy legend decided to weigh in, Dave Chappelle. Known for pushing boundaries himself, Dave came to Katt's defense and turned the spotlight on a bigger issue, cancel culture. Chappelle argued that comedy is supposed to be uncomfortable. Jokes are meant to challenge, provoke, and sometimes sting. If every punchline is treated like a personal attack, he warned, then comedy itself is on the chopping block. He pointed to his own controversies, especially the backlash over his Netflix specials, as proof that comedians are now judged more harshly than politicians. According to him, dragging up old roasts or clips to destroy someone's career is dangerous because it punishes comedians for doing exactly what they're hired to do. And for Katt Williams, the Wanda Smith incident became the perfect example. What was supposed to be funny banter got turned into a moral debate that still follows him years later. Do you think comedy should ever come with limits, or should comedians be free to say anything they feel on stage? In October 2024, Wanda Smith unfortunately passed away, just one day after celebrating her 58th birthday. The news hit Atlanta hard, especially among fans who grew up listening to her voice on V103. But as tributes poured in, people noticed something else. Katt Williams said nothing. No post, no statement, no public acknowledgement of the woman whose name had been tied to his for years. That silence sparked debate. Some argued it was the most respectful choice. Why insert himself into her legacy when their relationship had been so publicly messy? Others felt it came off as cold, even guilty, as if he didn't want to face the part he played in her downfall. And maybe that's the sad irony. Wanda's passing should have been a moment to honor her career and contributions. Instead, it reignited conversations about a roast that happened years earlier, proof of how one viral moment can define a legacy. With Wanda's passing, the infamous roast began circulating online again, and this time the debates were even louder. Some people argued that Katt Williams had ruined her career, that the humiliation never left her, and that comedians should be held accountable for crossing certain lines. Others pushed back, saying Katt was only doing what comedians do: defend themselves with wit, turn insults into punchlines, and win the room. It's a perfect snapshot of where comedy and cancel culture collide. On one side, you have the argument that jokes can cause real harm, impacting reputations and careers. On the other side, there's the belief that comedy should be untouchable, a space where free speech thrives and nothing is off limits. Katt himself once pointed out the double standard, saying that if another celebrity had been chased with a firearm after a roast, the outrage would have been massive. But because it was him, the story barely made headlines. How crazy is that? The Wanda incident proves just how blurry the line has become. Is comedy supposed to stop when the laughter does, or do we accept that every joke carries a risk? What began as a fiery radio exchange in 2018 grew into something much bigger than anyone could have imagined. A roast that should have stayed in the studio spilled into the streets, cost a veteran host her career, and followed both Wanda Smith and Katt Williams for the rest of their lives. For Wanda, the roast became a shadow she could never fully escape. For Katt, it was proof that his sharp tongue could defend him, but also proof of how quickly comedy can be weaponized against the very people who tell the jokes. Years later, as cancel culture rewrites the rules, the story feels more relevant than ever. Should comedians be held accountable for how the world reacts to their words, or is the audience just as responsible for turning a joke into a scandal? Because at the end of the day, Wanda's legacy is now forever tied to that moment, and Katt's silence after her passing only adds to the mystery. And maybe that's the bigger lesson here. In an age where one viral clip can shape or shatter a career, comedy isn't just about making people laugh anymore, it's about surviving the fallout once the laughter stops. But let us know what you think in the comments below.